We are on our Empowering Learners Part 2. We ended when we were talking about the partnership for 21st century skills, and the last part was when we were talking about the core beliefs, and I believe we ended with the beliefs above outline our responsibilities as the school library media specialist. So moving on, a summary of the standards. Our job is to get students to inquire, think critically, and to gain knowledge within our school library media program, draw conclusions, make informed decisions, apply knowledge to new situations, and create new knowledge, share their knowledge, and participate ethically and productively as members in our democratic society, and then finally to pursue personal and aesthetic growth. Rather than just getting your students to come in and sit quietly and just read a book or just be quiet, that's when, most old school librarians, you think about the students coming in, the librarian sitting at the desk, pinch-lipped, reading a book, telling everyone to shh every time anyone talks, speaks, does anything, or even makes any kind of loud noise. But we want the students in there looking actively for things they are interested in, whether it is to read for pleasure or whether it's to figure out how to take care of their pet chinchilla. All of those are tasks that our school library media program should provide. Within the book, it talked about the 2006, the AASL assembly, when they envisioned, what the role of the school library media specialist was now in 2006, and then what it was supposed to be in the future. And some of you guys were kind of surprised to know that the book that we were reading was published in 2009. That's already been 5 years, and you think about all of the different changes that have happened just over the last 5 years. The AASL has been speaking for years what our role should be, and I think it's taken schools time to kind of get on board with this. But before, they said that the first stage of our profession, or first order of business, was to be a teacher, and then the information specialist, then the instructional partner, and then the program administrator. For the future, they were envisioning program administrator. That's still low on the totem pole. I think if we looked at the school library media specialist role back in 1956, program administrator would have been one. It would have been the first order of business, make sure that the library is running smoothly. All of the books in their place and all the places with books. But in the future, they were envisioning us as an instructional partner, then the informational specialist, third as a teacher. And I find this to be very true. I am not tasked with whole classes coming in every week for me to teach one-on-one. I think a lot of elementary schools might be that way still, but I think secondary level, especially high school, I know I was never that kind of teacher. I was always more of an instructional partner. I think back in 1999 when I started, I was mostly information specialist, trying to find resources for the teachers when they asked me to. Now I am much more of an instructional partner, where I get to help design, what research activities are we going to do? What do we need to require the students to do? How are we going to assess them? And so I think this vision is already there. Next, I guess we'll go through just some of our roles. One is we need to be a leader. We need to lead the way to building those 21st century skills within our schools and within the school environment. We need to be willing to serve as a teacher and a learner. A lot of times you will be tasked with teaching the teachers how to do something, but we also need to constantly learn. We need to go to different conferences. We need to be open to learning new things and new ideas, especially in the technology world, so that we can help share those with our teachers and our administrators. We need an increased professional commitment and knowledge of our profession. So if you choose to sit in your library and never become a member of the American Association of School Librarians or the Arkansas Association of School Librarians or the Arkansas Association of Instructional Media, which someone will present on, or even just ALA, American Library Association. I think you're going to do yourself and your students and our profession a pretty big disservice. You need to be an active member of the global learning community. When your principal, your teachers ask, who wants to serve on this committee, at first especially, we need to say, yes, we do. We want to. Otherwise, you will find that the school library media program, it's only going to be as good as your advocacy. If you are not pushing for teachers and students to be in your library and using your school library media program, that's how we get shuffled to the back burner. And we always need to advocate for student learning. Instead of making things always easier on the students, watching the PE teacher who has been tasked with doing at least one research project with his students. When he has the computers, he gives the students one day to research everything about, the benefits of exercise and create an entire PowerPoint project. We need to advocate that there are better ways to teach students how to research those things. Maybe talk him into coming in, for 3 days into the library, and start off the project showing the students some appropriate resources and showing them, a few research shortcuts, but instead of, just doing a project for the sake of doing the project, we just always need to advocate for student learning. We're not going to help the students by throwing them on Google for one day and say, oh yes, they know all of the benefits of exercise. We need to be an instructional partner. One of the things that you guys talked about a lot in the discussion is collaboration. Collaboration is key. And it's hard to get the teachers to begin collaborating, especially as a new media specialist. Some of us, it's hard to know what your teachers need until they ask. But if you totally sit back, they're going to think you're not willing, and they're not going to be willing usually to relinquish the reins to anyone else. I think someone put that somewhere in their post. So it's your job to start the collaboration off. And a lot of times it starts with those teachers that either you're friends with or that are young or that have those subject areas. And literacy to me, that's the natural one that we should partner with. But honestly, my literacy teachers have been probably some of the hardest to get into the library. The math is second. They've got so much on their plate. Science and social studies, trust me, they are out there. They are having to research, especially science and social studies. You could do anything with them, but find those teachers that are willing. And a lot of times when you find one, the others will come. Once you've built a successful research project, someone else will see what the students are doing. The students will talk about it, and then someone else will say, well, I could probably do a research project as well. So we need to collaborate with teachers to develop a standards-based curriculum. We need to be looking at what their content area standards are and seeing where can we fit in, where can we help even just a little bit. We do need to work with members of the school community to develop policies. Make sure you have a selection policy. Make sure that there is an acceptable use policy and that your teachers and your students are following it. We need to guide instructional design to reflect the goals and objectives and assessment. There's that word, assessment again. One of the things that I noticed with a lot of our teachers, they were doing the research projects, but then the students would say, there was never time for them to present. They would be very frustrated. They would have created this fabulous Prezi or a PowerPoint or a Glogster project, and nobody ever looked at it other than the teacher. So one of the things that I try to do with our teachers, where it says communicate regularly with the learning community, the students, the teachers, and the parents. It's hard to communicate to the parents. I try to send out maybe a quarterly newsletter, especially when we've got the book fair coming up, or we've got Grandparents' Day, or I'm doing Teen Read Week. The students, I can usually, I just email them because we're a Google school, so I can email the entire 6th grade or the entire 7th grade at one time. But communicating regularly with our teachers, I attend at least one. We all have team meetings every week, and I was assigned originally 7th period with the art teachers. I think I was kind of an afterthought when I got a new principal 3 years ago. So I just started to kind of attend if I had Wednesday. It was always on Wednesdays, but maybe I had first period prep because I had science classes coming in that Wednesday because I have a flexible schedule. I started going to the first period with the science teachers, their team meeting, one week, and then the next week I might go to math, and then another week. So my principal, once she figured out I wasn't trying to get out of team meetings, I just needed to meet with more than just one subject area all of the time. She had come from an elementary school. It just took a little while for that to kind of catch on, and she was fine with it once we kind of started it. But at first, it just may be met with a little hesitation, but you need to be creative. Assessment ideas. If you can create a needs assessment or survey of any of the projects with the teachers, help them come up with rubrics or ways that the students can look at other kids' projects. One of the things we did, we set up in our literacy classrooms, they had one of the mobile labs. They set their students in pods of 4, and while they were in those areas, every student would open up their project on their computer, and then they just rotated around in their pod. Each student, once they had theirs open, they each spent 3 minutes with someone else's project, kind of assessing, saying, hey, what I liked, what I didn't like, and then if there was time, they would trade. Those 4 students would leave their projects open, they would swap with another pod, the other pod would come over, and then they would take 3 minutes each. And so, not that you got to see every single project, but at least you got to see 7 other students' projects. And it wasn't, where you tell the students, look at least 2 other people's projects and comment on them. Then you get into that popularity contest. Everyone wants to look at, Rayanne and Anthony's, but nobody wants to look at Drusilla's or someone else's. So it kind of makes it fair. Exit slips at the end of your research day. One of the best things to do is, as the students, especially if they're in the library, just hand them a little note card and ask them to write down where are you in the project and where do you need to begin tomorrow. If you collect them all as the students exit the door, the next day when they come back in, maybe they're doing a three-day research project, they can look at where they were from the day before and exactly where they need to start. One of the best assessments I have ever found is the TRAILS assessment. TRAILS stands for a tool for real-time assessment of information literacy skills. If you truly want to know what your students know information literacy wise, can they narrow a topic? Can they use appropriate resources? Can they find the information that they are looking for? You can set up, it's a free site, and it has information literacy skills. We've done pre-test, there's 2 different tests. There's test 1 and test 2, and I hear that the second one is harder, and that was from my own 6th grade son this year, because his group had to do assessment number 2, and they compared it to the group that did 1, and it did look like it might have been harder. But they're for 3rd grade, 6th grade, 9th grade, and 12th grade. Standards Common Core is included in those. But if you'll go to the website, you can go through, what it's about, how it works. You can set up an account. It has frequently asked questions. And then one of the things it has is related resources, and it has a really good wiki that takes you through different lesson plans for different subjects, different tasks, information literacy skills tasks for students specifically. And here is the 9th grade TRAILS assessment example. It asks them, you are assigned a report for your social studies class on a speech given by the UN Secretary General 4 days ago. What research tool would not be helpful in finding information about the speech? And this is the teacher view, so you can see your school library's card catalog wouldn't really have anything for a speech from 4 days ago. So it shows you what the best answer is. But the students just have multiple choice questions, but it gives the Common Core standards, and it tells you what that 21st century learner standard is as well. And this category was identifying potential resources. One of the things